Next guests have created a fun, low-pressure environment where self-proclaimed nerds, guys, can find love, friendship, and companionship.
That's right, and we're joined now by Bathsheba Birman with Nerds at Heart. Welcome to the Morning Blend.
Thanks so much for having me.
Are you a nerd at heart?
Indeed I am,
yeah?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Sure, so we define a nerd, we used to get that question a lot when we first started. People wondering if they were nerdy enough, too nerdy, etc. Was there a Mensa test?
Where do you fall on the nerd scale?
Right, exactly. And so our rule of thumb is if you think you are, you are. And what we notice is that it's a really big tent, big nerd tent. So it could be anything from what you do for a living, all the, you know, kind
techie
of
or IT
exactly.
people kind of come to mind right away.
Absolutely, librarians, teachers, no surprise there. Our joke is any job title that ends in ologist.
Yes.
And then, but it could also be interests. You know, the person that has, you know, the killer comic book collection in their closet that you don't realize, or it could be, we see this as a rising trend, someone that doesn't seem to have any discernibly nerdy qualities, but they just think that nerd guys or nerd girls are super appealing, and so they crush on the...
I have friends who say you got to have a guy with a little bit of nerd in them because they try harder and they're like better lovers.
Well, they also keep it interesting. You know, I mean, you would get bored eventually without somebody to talk a little nerd with, I think.
Cool guys never had to work so hard.
Exactly.
Right?
So how did this come about then, the first time that any nerd event was organized? Because this sounds to me like it just was a perfect brainchild.
Yeah, so no pun intended, right?
Exactly.
So we actually saw our friends out there in the dating, you know, on the dating scene, and realized that they weren't making compatible matches. And when we meet, we don't think about it that much, but often where we meet the person is kind of an indicator of who we are and who they are. And so everyone, I think, has had the experience of being in a bar or on the club scene and kind of doing what I call, you know, the 30-second once-over before you decide whether you're gonna, you know, actually, you know, take that drink that someone's buying you or engage in the conversation. And in that 30 seconds, you don't really get to know, you know, what their interests are, whether they like their mom, you know, whether they're nice to pets, you know, all the things that, you know, that you have.
I like your list.
So yeah, so you have a list. We all have kind of this mental list, but in that kind of split second, you don't really have that opportunity. So what we wanted to do was create something that was, you know, a relaxed environment where you could meet people and connect in a much lower pressure and less superficial way.
So what's an event like? We're kind of seeing some video here where people are all sort of around a table, maybe playing some games. It seems really low pressure. You know, when you think of a dating event, you think of just being really nervous. So if you show up at an event, what is it like? Yeah,
actually that's something that we intended to design. My comment on it always was people feel like dating is sort of the means to the end. And it's sort of like going to the dentist. You do it because you have to. And
it's not fun.
It's not fun. And so we wanted to create something that even if you didn't, we hope that everyone meets their nerd mate, you know, on the first evening, you know, their nerd soulmate, but if they don't, we still want them to have a good time. We want them to feel great, and so we have a couple different formats, but our most classic one is a board games and trivia format. And what folks do, we have an icebreaker activity where, you know, everyone you know, engages in the event that we have coming up. We're doing a decades theme, and so that particular one is kind of you're walking musical memory lane and swapping that with people. We have a quiz to determine who the biggest nerd is.
Yeah, we're going to do the quiz too. You can play along at home with us.
I have high hopes.
Yeah?
And then we have board games interspersed with rounds of trivia, and so there's the opportunity for everyone to meet. And what we notice is definitely the flirting across the table. You know, everybody has someone, their eye fixed on that special someone. But then also a really great dynamic with the group because it's, you know, people are grouped in groups of about 8.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and then a whole room kind of, oh my gosh, I found my people. You know, it's really the sense of being surrounded. You can actually sometimes, particularly during the nerd quiz, feel this sort of collective sigh of relief of, oh my gosh.
You too?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I was in
That's
speech and theater, and I always say, like, I'm nerd at heart. So I want to find out how nerdy we really are. You have the quiz for us, right?
We do,
but we got to bring in the interns.
Yeah, where are they?
Because we're not just playing alone.
They're not mic'd up, but what are we going to do? Raise our hands if we... Okay, we're going to raise our hands. Raise our hands. Supposed to be standing behind us.
Here, scoot over just a little bit, ladies. Get in the gaps.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, so how it works, we're going to
play at home with us.
Yes. We're going to do a quiz to determine who the biggest nerd is. You raise your hand if it applies to you, and there's a fabulous nerd crown for the winner.
Oh, I love crowns.
Yes. So you can compete for the
All
crown.
right, I feel like I need to lie just to win the crown. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so raise your hand if you speak a foreign language.
Okay, all
Wow,
four.
good crowd.
Okay.
Raise your hand if you own a museum tote bag. All right, we have a breakaway here. Raise your hand if you correct other people's spelling or grammatical mistakes.
I hear them. I don't correct them.
I do if I'm feeling mean.
We won't even get into your and your.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you entered a science or history fair without it being required, voluntarily.
No.
But that's the amount of work. And,
doing so
you know,
good.
it's not that I didn't like going.
Raise your hand if you had a crush on a teacher.
Absolutely. Even wrote him a love note.
Oh,
wow, girl.
I know. Slipped it under that door. Sure, he had no clue who it's from.
Raise your hand if the first thing that you do at a friend's house is ask for their Wi-Fi code.
Not the first thing.
No.
I usually get a drink first. Okay.
Raise your hand if you have labeled your label maker.
It says don't label me. I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
and you just came to mind. I was about to say, you're such a nerd.
I know. I love my label maker. Okay, go ahead.
Raise your hand if you've brought your laptop or device to the beach. Oh, wow, guilty.
Yep.
Raise your hand if you have camped out overnight for the release of a movie or a product.
Harry Potter Goblet of Fire.
Nerd.
I was in the middle of finals, too. It was not a smart choice.
Okay, so raise your hand if you now play a game that you learned as a kid online. So you used to play Scrabble with people, and now you actually just play Words with Friends on your phone.
Words with Friends and
Words
memory.
with Friends counts? I thought it actually had to be called Scrabble.
And memory. You can play memory on your phone. You can get that app.
Boggle is I'm guilty.
Okay.
Raise your hand if you can name 5 or more current international heads of state.
I want to say yes to that,
wish
but
I
I don't
could
want
say
the pressure
yes.
of maybe having to do it.
Yeah,
Normally
one
I
more.
could. Okay.
One more.
Yeah, absolutely. Raise your hand if you own superhero undies.
Jen and Anna are interns. Thanks, you guys. That's great. This is fun. Okay, so I think we would qualify.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we could come.
We're at least moderate.
All right, so.
Oh, so do we have a winner?
Oh, yeah.
Do we have a winner?
Who
Do
was
we-
our
did anybody
winner?
count?
Holly's the winner.
Holly.
Absolutely. She camped out. She corrects people's grammar.
Harry Potter Goblet
It's
of
you,
Fire.
girl. It is you,
And
girl.
she won without even having to use the superhero undies.
That, right? Well, I
didn't
can't
even
say I
have to be
didn't
a
ever have them. I'm just saying. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Give
we
us a
have
wave.
fabulous T-shirts
That's
for
awesome.
the participants. Nerd is the new sexy.
Nerd is the new sexy,
That's
man.
maybe the best T-shirt I've ever seen.
Bathsheba, you're great.
Oh
Thank
my
you so
gosh,
much. Here's
this
the
is
information
awesome.
so you can attend to Nerds at Heart. Here's the information for you. It's going on Sunday, the 26th, from 4 to 7 at the Binary in West Allis. It's $30. Registration is required for you to go, so you do have to call or visit online. It's 855-NERD-LOVE. You can find that, right?
That's
or
easy.
nerdsatheart.com for all the information. Thanks so much for joining
so
us.
fun. Thank
I
you.
love it. Go
We
Nerds.
should get together.
High fives.
Let's get together and play board games.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.